Congressman Toomey's rigid mindset just doesn't line up with Pennsylvania's values. The last time we trusted him in Washington, he helped set this country on a dangerous course. And now he wants to reverse the progress we've made before our recovery has a chance to be completed. When I arrived in Congress, the year this recession began, I stepped into the same role I'd had as my first job in the military on a warship, damage control officer. I got to work to repair the damage and help prevent a total economic collapse. A big ship has a lot of momentum. You learn in the Navy that something the size of an aircraft carrier doesn't stop on a dime. But we did what was necessary to put the brakes on our economic freefall and eventually bring it to a stop. My opponents attacked the steps we took to clean up the mess he left behind. They were tough votes, but they were the right votes. That's what leadership is. It's what I learned as a sailor, and it's why I went to Congress in the first place, to do what's right, regardless of the political consequences. Right before our emergency measures took effect, America was losing an average of 700,000 jobs a month, and something had to be done about it. So we did what the situation demanded. And experts from across the political spectrum agree. As a result of our actions, the economy began to turn around. A recent report showed that without the steps we took, 8 million more workers would be out of a job today. And our GDP, our gross domestic product, would be 6 points lower. After the 2001 recession, it took 21 months of stagnation before we started to add jobs again. This time, even though the crisis was much deeper, our efforts started up the job market just 6 months after the recession ended. And over the last 8 months, the private sector has added 654,000 new jobs. We put out the fire. But let's not forget who helped light the match and would have let the house burn to the ground. We cannot let Congressman Toomey be given the book of matches again. But we know we still got a ways to go. If we want our economy to boom again, we need a practical way forward. That's why my top priority is and has been creating jobs, and why ordinary Pennsylvanians, not special interest groups, are at the heart of my economic agenda. We don't need another senator for Wall Street. We need a senator who represents us. The first step is providing relief for the small businesses where most Pennsylvanians work, and where 80% of all jobs are created in America. That's why the centerpiece of my economic plan has been and is a 15% payroll tax credit for small businesses to help them start hiring again. The Economic Policy Institute has said this would create as many as 5 million jobs in just 2 years. That's half of the total number that were lost during this crisis, where people are looking for jobs. And it would go a long way towards getting us back on track. But it's only the beginning. Next, we need to raise the Small Business Administrations, the SBA's, lending limits to $5 million to spur immediate small business growth. This would inject capital into the system and give more entrepreneurs the confidence to expand and take the next step. We should strengthen successful initiatives that help women, minorities, and veterans, like the Community Express Lending Program. It's been a pilot program for 14 years, yet it provides a quarter of all small business loans for women and minority individuals. It's time we make this permanent and lift the cap that stymies its full value. At the same time, we need to encourage renewed private investment by providing tax breaks for angel investors and venture capitalists who put the money in small businesses, with zero capital gains tax for anyone who invests in a small business. As Vice Chairman of the House Small Business Committee, I've introduced a bill that would do just that some time ago. Up to 30% in tax credits for qualifying investments in startup small companies, where every dollar will have the most impact in creating jobs. We need to guarantee 98% of community bank small business loans to minimize risk and get credit flowing again to credit-worthy small business women and men. As we increase lending to startups with an increase to $50,000 in microloans by the SBA. We must provide tax refunds for struggling businesses to offset losses over 5 years instead of just 2. And encourage small business growth by doubling the write-off on capital expenditures while accelerating expensing by at least 50%. I fought to help minority entrepreneurs by establishing small business development centers, wrote legislation to help small businesses compete for federal contracts, and even passed a bill to enhance women business development centers and the Service Corps for retired executives. And we have to keep these efforts going. Moving forward, we also need to make major investments in emerging technologies, such as nanotechnology, stem cell research, and especially new energy technology, which can vitalize Pennsylvania's coal industry and create 78,000 new energy jobs across our state. China has invested heavily in this sector, creating 100,000 jobs a year, and leading the world in the development of new energy technology. But I think we should export our innovations to China, not the other way around. Finally, I believe we need to expand and extend tax cuts for the middle class. These are the working people who form the backbone of this country. But these days they're hurting like they never have before. I've traveled across all 67 counties in Pennsylvania. It's why I decided to get in this race and not run for my congressional job. And everywhere I go, I hear from people who have been slammed because Washington and their policies have forgotten them. Just forgotten them. But we can't just vote for change. We have to have people who keep fighting for the change needed to correct Washington's focus, regardless of the cost to them. Them, the people in Washington. This set of proposals, along with many others I have supported, will go a long way towards creating jobs, restoring our economic strength, and jump-starting growth. I've been advocating the same set of proposals for more than a year, and now other members of my party are coming around. On Friday, President Obama renewed his commitment to supporting small businesses and the middle class. And across the political spectrum, there is widespread recognition that they will be the engine of our economy. Mark Zandi, an economist who advised Senator McCain, has said that proposals like mine are the most effective way to create jobs and restore economic growth. Consensus is forming, and it's driven by the common sense Pennsylvanians I meet every day. Regardless of party affiliation, people recognize that I stand for practical solutions. That's why I was proud to accept the endorsements of people here in Pittsburgh, like Chuck Hagel, a former Republican senator, and Michael Bloomberg, the independent mayor of New York City. Yet Congressman Toomey has opposed help for small businesses and continues to lead the charge for Wall Street's special interests. Despite all the evidence, my opponent wants to set our country right back on the dangerous course that led us into this storm. In fact, his plan would actually raise taxes on low and middle income families so we can lower them for a handful of wealthy Americans. If he got his way, 95% of workers would be hit with an average tax hike of $3,000, while millionaires would get a tax break of more than $200,000. You can put it in black and white. Congressman Toomey wants to end Social Security as we know it. He wants to raise taxes on working families, reduce taxes on the super rich, and get rid of taxes on corporations. His approach is fundamentally wrong for our country. But even more troubling is the fact that he's trying to disguise his position on many of these important issues. He recently claimed he never favored privatizing Social Security and didn't think his plan to end corporate taxes would be practical, even though he wrote about both in the book he published last year and has talked about them extensively in the media. My opponent knows his ideas are unpopular because they harm the middle class while helping the wealthy. So he's trying to cloak his extreme ideology in general talk about taxes and spending. The trouble is, he's so busy trying to mask his true record that people are starting to wonder, what are the specific details of his plan? We know he wants less regulation on Wall Street, bigger tax breaks for the super rich, and zero taxes on corporations. But how is he going to pay for all this new spending? We know he wants to slash essential government programs. In the past, he's eliminated, with his vote, $3 billion in education funding. And he cut the Small Business Administration's budget in half. In the midst of 2 wars, he voted to underfund the Veterans Administration by $1.3 billion. He opposed nutrition programs for low-income mothers, infants, and children, said no to funding for local law enforcement, and even voted against funding for violence against women programs. But in addition to Social Security, what's on his chopping block this time around? This is a clear pattern of distortion. He's trying to run from his record and hide his extreme agenda behind vague political spin, using as a shield the anger at the economic damage his exact policies caused. More jobs, less government looks great on a bumper sticker. But these 4 words are a campaign political slogan, not a platform for real solutions. Last year, I was right here in Pittsburgh many times, going over the same proposals I just talked about to create jobs and offer support for working families, and some have already been passed. I've never wavered. My platform is the same whether I'm running in the Democratic primary or the general election, no matter who my opponent is, because I am running for something, for Pennsylvania. I'll never backtrack for political reasons, and I'll also never hesitate to reach across the aisle to the other side to get results for ordinary Pennsylvanians.